2 Kings 16. Ahaz, king of Judah. In the 17th year of Pekah, son of Remaliah, Ahaz, son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16. Unlike David his father, he did not do what was right in the eyes of the Lord, his God. He followed the ways of the kings of Israel, and even sacrificed his own son in the fire, engaging in the detestable practices of the nations the Lord had driven out before the Israelites. He offered sacrifices and burned incense at the high places on the hilltops and under every spreading tree. Then Rezin, king of Aram, and Pekah son of Remaliah, king of Israel, marched up to fight against Jerusalem and besieged Ahaz, but they could not overpower him at the time. Rezin, king of Aram, recovered Elath for Aram by driving out the people of Judah, Edomites, and then moved into Elath and had lived there to this day. Ahaz sent messengers to say to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Azariah, I am your servant and vassal. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Aram and out of the king of Israel who were attacking me. And Ahaz took the silver and gold found in the temple of the Lord and the treasuries of the royal palace and sent it to a gift to the king of Azariah. The king of Azariah complied by attacking Damascus and capturing it, and he deported its inhabitants to Kir and put Rezin to death. Then King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Azariah. He saw an altar in Damascus, sent to Uriah the priest of a sketch of an altar with detailed plans for its construction. So Uriah the priest built an altar in accordance with all the plans the king Ahaz had sent from Damascus, and finished it before the king Ahaz returned. When the king came back from Damascus and saw that the altar, he approached it and presented offerings on it. He offered up a burnt offering and grain offering, poured it out on his drink offering, and splashed out the blood of his fellowship offerings against the altar. As for the bronze altar that stood before the Lord, he brought it up from the front of the temple, from between the new altar and the temple of the Lord, and put it on the north side of the new altar. King Ahaz then gave these orders to Uriah the priest: on the large new altar offer the morning burnt offerings and the evening grain offerings, the king's burnt offerings and his grain offerings, and the burnt offerings of all the people of the land, and their grain offering and their drink offering. Splash against this altar blood of all burnt offerings and sacrifices, but I will use the bronze altar for seeking guidance. And Uriah the priest did just as the king Ahaz had ordered. King Ahaz cut off the side panels and removed the basins from the movable stands. He removed the seat from the bronze bowls and supported it and set it on the stone base. He took away the Sabbath canopy that had been built at the temple and removed the royal entryway outside the temple of the Lord in difference to the king of Azariah. As for the other events to reign of the Ahaz and what he did, they were not written in the book of annals of the king of Judah. And Ahaz rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of David and Hezekiah. His sons succeeded him as king. Hoshea, last king of Israel. 2 Kings 17. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea, son of Elzah, became king of Israel and Samaria, and he reigned 9 years. He did evil things in the eyes of the Lord, but not like the kings of Israel who preceded him. King of Azariah came up to attack Hoshea, who had been Shalmaneser's vassal, and had paid him in tribute. But the king of Azariah discovered that the Hoshea was a traitor, for he had sent envoys to So, king of Egypt, and he no longer paid tribute to the king of Azariah as he had done year by year. Therefore Shalmaneser seized him, and he put him in prison. The king of Azariah invaded the entire land, marched against Samaria, and laid siege to it for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Azariah captured Samaria and deported the Israelites to Azariah. He settled them in Halah and Gozan on the Habor river and in the towns of Medes. Israel exiled because of sin. All this took place because the Israelites had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up out of Egypt from under the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. They worshipped other gods and followed the practices of the nations the Lord had driven out before them, as well as the practices that the king of Israel had introduced. The Israelites secretly did things against the Lord their God that were not right. From the watchtower to the fortified city, they built themselves high palaces. In all of their towns, they set up sacred stones and Asherah poles on every high hill and under every spreading tree. At every high place they placed incense, as the nations from whom the Lord had driven out before them had done. They did wicked things that aroused the Lord's anger, and they worshipped idols through the Lord had said, "You shall not do this." The Lord wanted Israel and Judah through all their prophets and seers. Turn from the evil ways, observe my commands and decrees in accordance with the entire law that I commanded your ancestors to obey, and that I delivered you through my servants and prophets. But they would not listen, and they were as stiff-necked as their ancestors, and who did not trust in the Lord of their God. They rejected his decrees and the covenant that had made their ancestors, and the statutes that had warned them to keep. They followed worthless idols, and themselves became worthless. They imitated the nations around them, although the Lord had ordered them, do not do as they do. For they forsook all the commands of the Lord their God, and made themselves two idols cast in the shape of calves. As Assyria pole, they bowed down to all the Asteri hosts, and they worshipped. They sacrificed their sons and daughters in the fire. What? They practiced divination and sought omens, and sold themselves to do evil in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger. So the Lord was very angry with Israel, and was removed from his presence, and only the tribe of Judah was left, and even Judah did not keep the commands of the Lord their God. They followed the practices Israel had introduced. Therefore the Lord rejected all the people of Israel. He afflicted them as he gave them into the hands of the plunderers, until he thrust them from his presence. When he tore Israel away from the house of David, they made Jeroboam son of Nebat their king. Jeroboam enticed Israel away from following the Lord, and caused them to commit a great sin. The Israelites persisted in all the sins of Jeroboam, and did not turn away from them, until the Lord removed them from his presence. So as he had warned them, all his servants and his prophets. So the people of Israel were taken from their homeland into the exile in Assyria, and they were still there. Samaria resettled. The king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Cuthath, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and settled them in the towns of Samaria to replace the Israelites. They took over Samaria and lived in its towns. When the first lived there, they did not worship the Lord, so he sent lions among them, and they killed some of the people. It was reported to the king of Assyria, the people you deported and resettled in the towns of Samaria do not know what the God of the country requires. He has sent lions among them, which are killing them off, because the people do not know what he requires. When the king of Assyria gave this order, have one of the priests you took captive from Samaria go back to live there, and teach the people what the God of the land requires. So some of the priests who had been exiled from Samaria came to live in the Bethel, and taught them how to worship the Lord. Nevertheless, each national group made it to its own gods in several towns, where they settled and set them up in the shrines the people of Samaria had made at the high places. The people from Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, those from Cuthath made Nergal, and those from Hamath made Ashima. The Avites made Nibhaz, and Tartak, and the Servites burned their children in the fire as sacrifices to Adramelech and Anamelech, the gods of Sephraim. They worshipped the Lord, but they also appointed all sorts of their own people to officiate for them as priests in the shrines at the high places. They worshipped the Lord, but they also served their own gods in accordance with the customs of the nations from which they had been brought. To this day, the priests, in their former practices, they neither worship the Lord nor adhere to the decrees of regulations and the laws of the commands that the Lord gave the descendants of Jacob, whom he named Israel. When the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites, he commanded them, do not worship any other gods or bow down to them, serve them or sacrifice to them. But the Lord, who brought you up out of Egypt with mighty power and outstretched arm, is the one you must worship. To him you shall bow down and to offer sacrifices. You must also be careful to keep the decrees, the regulations, the laws, and the commands he wrote for you. Do not worship other gods, and do not forget the covenant I have made with you, and do not worship other gods. Rather, worship the Lord your God. It is he who will deliver you from the hand of your enemies. They would not listen, however, but persisted in their former practices. Even while these people were worshiping the Lord, they were serving their idols to this day. Their children and grandchildren continued to do as their ancestors did. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.